Hello, and thanks for joining us for today's webinar titled 9 Ways to Stay Undefeated Against Downtime. My name is Kevin Collins from Unitrends, and I'm here with Dick Sappler, Product Marketing Manager, and he'll be taking us through the presentation. And don't forget, one lucky attendee will be walking away with the $100 Amazon gift card. We'll contact the winner via email after the webinar. But before we get started, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. This session will be recorded, and after the event, you will receive an email with a link to the on-demand version of the webinar. I would also encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation. You can do so by typing them into the Q&A box on the bottom right of the player. We'll answer your questions at the end of the session. At this point, I'll turn it over to Dick. Enjoy the presentation, and Dick, take it away.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Thank you, everybody, for coming and joining today. I hope not to take too much of your time. As Kevin said, my name is Dick Sappler. I'm the Product Marketing Manager for Unitrends. And today, a very special location, I'm actually coming to you from historic Union Station in downtown Indianapolis. I'm actually attending a conference called HECC, H-E-C-C, that stands for Hoosier Educational Computer Coordinators. And it is an event that's targeted to K-12 IT specialists. There's a lot of vendors here. It's a big show. And the reason we're here is we actually have over 100 K-12 schools in Indiana that are using Unitrends backup appliances for ransomware, which I'll talk about as we go through this. So we know a lot of people here. We always like coming to Indiana. So I'm in a conference room, and I will apologize in advance that if some people come in, they're looking for coffee in the booths. So, okay. So why are we talking about recovery and downtime? Because it's expensive. The average cost of downtime is about $9,000 per hour, and I've seen this from multiple sources. But if you look at, if you said to your spouse or significant other that, hey, we got 95% uptime, that sounds pretty good, but it still means you're literally spending millions of dollars. You're losing millions of dollars of business activity. And so the whole idea here is to try to minimize downtime, that even if you can get it to 99.9% availability, it's costing your company hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. And so that's what we're here to talk about. So I've kind of outlined 9 ways to stay undefeated against downtime. And even though I'm literally sitting here looking over Lucas Oil Stadium where the Indianapolis Colts play, I'm going to talk about the Patriots because that's, we're based in Burlington, Massachusetts. And so we're making football analogies, it seems very appropriate for this time of year. So, but there are 9 things you can do. And basically what it is trying to take the offense against downtime. What are the things that you can do to be proactive against common computing errors that you're going to face? And so number 1, know your opponent. And today, and I've heard this over and over, even here in Indianapolis, but in other places, ransomware is your number 1 opponent. The ransomware criminals are getting more clever, and particularly if you're in a K-12 with all your students that are absolute clickbait, will click on anything without any thoughts. You can have all the virus scanners you want and all of the training for your end users, but you're still going to get hit by a ransomware attack. It is big, and it is growing, and it is evolving. And so today, ransomware will not immediately notify you that you have been infected by an attack. Instead, what it does, now it infects your system, and then it delays. It goes around and literally tunnels around and looks for files, and it looks for backup files. Any labels such as backup.exe or things like that, it actually looks for. So they're less quick to identify themselves. Infections take longer, but they encrypt more files to try to ensure that they get that payoff in Bitcoin. So most people, if you said to them, what can you do about fighting ransomware? Obviously protection, getting a backup appliance, and being able to recover are the 2 things. But there's actually 5 total steps that you should do: secure, test, and detect, which we'll talk about in greater detail because these are the new ways of fighting this enemy. So for secure, you really should be using a hardened Linux appliance, purpose-built for backup recovery and ransomware protection. The reason is that Windows applications tend to be the target of ransomware pirates because they're literally 90% of the boxes that are out there. They're targeting the meat of the marketplace. But also, Windows tends to be written in a more open style. Linux is more of a closed system. Our appliance is purpose-built, so there are fewer gaps that can be exploited by criminals entering into your infrastructure. Testing. Testing now is becoming a critical element in in recovery. You need to be able to detect a ransomware event while it's occurring and not wait for that red screen to pop up saying you've been infected and where to send the bitcoins. So you should have software such as Recovery Assurance, which is what we sell, that tests regularly, all the time, and then produces a report that is qualified enough that you can see displayed any sort of issues that might occur with your recovery that might indicate a ransomware attack. But finally, what's most new on the marketplace, and this is detection of an infection. So in our backup appliances, we actually look for a ransomware infection with every single backup. We can tell how the profile of a particular data file changes as it's being replicated or being copied from the active and compared to the last good copy. So we use artificial intelligence, we run analytics against it, and then immediately, if we detect that even a single file has been changed its footprint to the point where it mimics what a ransomware infected file would look like, we send an alert to the administrator both via email and on the dashboard of the management console. And we also put an icon in the backup catalog so that you can easily go in and identify any files that may have been infected by backup. So you need to find out sooner so that there's less impact and fewer files that actually get infected. Okay? So number one, you got to understand ransomware and get some proactive tools that will help you go after it. Two, make sure that every play counts. And by that I mean managing your backups. Every backup matters because, quite frankly, your point of recovery is your last good backup. And if I said to you right now, do you know what is the time of your last good backup? You should know that without having to spend an inordinate amount of time figuring it out. You should be spending less than an hour a week managing your backups. And so what we do is we literally send out an email after every backup or every day. You set it up in the user interface, and it'll have red, yellow, and green lights on it that'll tell you the status of your backups. And so most of our customers, literally what they do is they come in the morning, they look for that email, they literally see all green, and they know that they are now protected, and they have done nothing other than opened up an email to look. So we present the backup status. This is the dashboard, our user interface of the Recovery Series and Unitrends backup software appliance. These are tiles that can be moved around so that you can see, put the ones that you want to see first and so forth. But you can see that, how many trials and tests have been taken, and that the results, you see here that there were 9 successful, 6 with warnings, and 4 that failed. Obviously, we're doing this just to demonstrate that we have this capability. But on your dashboard, by logging in every morning and keeping that there, you can see the status of where your tests have gone. And then we can see this is the tile that we then move that shows the movement. And then also, you can drill down then on any failed, and you can see exactly where the failure occurred and the description of what went wrong. So you see the green there says successful and then failed, and the reason for the failure. So you can go and take proactive action to get that fixed before it's too late. You don't want to be doing this, obviously. We're in the midst of a ransomware attack or a data center downtime. Number 3, set up your playbook. And by this I mean, scheduling your backups. And traditionally, backups scheduling people go in and do the traditional way, which is to go in and, how many days, what time of day, you designate where you want the file stored, how long you want the storage, and then that becomes your backup schedule. But if you do it this way, you don't really have an idea of whether this schedule will help you meet your business objectives. Will you actually be able to hit your RPO and RTO times? But there's no linkage between, a schedule-based backup like this and the RPOs and RTOs that you committed to the organization. So what you should be using is a policy-based scheduling mechanism where literally you go in and you enter the RPO goal that you have for a corporation, the one that you committed to your stakeholders. And then you tell it the first day, how many times you want it, how long you want the retention, how long you want them kept warm, and when to delete them. And literally, that's all you have to say. The system then will use artificial intelligence and go back and build the parameters around and create a backup schedule that then guarantees you to meet that RPO goal. And if it doesn't, in the first test, it'll get a warning that says you cannot meet the RPO at that time, and you need to go back and change some factors and so forth. So use policy-based scheduling to make sure that you can actually meet your business goals and not just some artificial, every Tuesday at 3 o'clock type of thing. Okay, number 4, let the experts do their job. And this means role-based management. You can't do everything. You don't know the data as well as the people who are actually creating it and managing it and using it. You can't possibly know everything that they know about their data. So using role-based management capabilities, you can assign backup and recovery privileges to somebody in an organization and let them then manage their own backups and recoveries. So it offloads IT from having to do things like recover lost files, which happens all the time. The system also literally will block visibility to other departments' data for the role-based manager. So they will only see the data that you actually assign. Let them do their job. They know it better. They know it the best, and it offloads you to doing it. Number 5, practice, practice, practice. And this means automated testing. You should be testing your recoveries regularly. We just did a survey of the IT environment. We had about 800 respondents, and we found that 65%, this is a staggering number, 65% of respondents test their DR process once a year or less, which means they really don't know what's going on. They just have no sense of whether they ever will be able to recover because, quite frankly, testing can be complex. They're N-tier applications spread across multiple data centers. Different servers are all sharing and supporting the same application. So it is quite complex. But there are testing tools out there that will literally automatically spin up your environment in a test environment, so without impacting your production systems, and then test all the way to the application level. That's what you want to test, that the application can recover. And then this is actually the point that that you can recover to. And so we have Unitrends recovery assurance. I showed you an image of that just previously in this presentation. The software will automatically test. You can set it up to automatically test. You can start doing custom tests if you want so. We have written many tests, particular for particular applications such as SharePoint or ERP applications and so forth. But you can actually then get this report that shows exactly what your RPO and RTO goals times are compared to your goals. Now, this report is good enough that it can actually be used for compliance reporting. And we have many customers, particularly in the healthcare industry, for example, who have HIPAA reporting and compliance requirements, and they use the recovery assurance output as a way to prove to auditors, third-party auditors, government auditors, that their recovery plans are in place, tested, and operational. So it's a very effective tool, simplifying your life, particularly when it comes to making sure that you will recover. Okay, number 6, identify your key players. And by this I mean triage your applications. Not all applications are as critical. Obviously, you have your ERP system if you're in manufacturing, you have your Salesforce automation systems, which are used by the Salesforce, and those are far more critical than, say, the application that does employees' expense reimbursement. So what you want to do then is you got to know which those applications are and schedule them to recover first, or if you're using disaster recovery in the cloud, you can buy a premium DRAS service for those applications and just those applications, so that you're not paying anything extra for all your applications. Your one size doesn't fit all. Where the DRAS services will come with a 1-hour SLA guaranteeing that you'll be up within the hour, and that SLA guarantees that your vendors are paying attention to what it is that you want them to pay attention to, and which applications are the most important. Okay, number 7, build out a game plan. The SLAs are very powerful tools. You need to have an SLA with your enterprise and your stakeholders that says that you can recover and that you will commit to recovering in a certain period of time. 1 hour, 4 hours, 1 day, that depends on you. But you need to set the performance level that should be expected of you with your organization. Now, if you come to them and say we can recover in 12 hours, and they say that's not good enough, now you have a business conversation, not just yes you can, no you can't type of conversation. But an SLA is a very powerful tool for setting performance expectations, so that when something does go bad, and it will, you're not having that conversation at that time when everyone's screaming at you to get the applications back up and running. And on the flip side, an SLA is really important to have with your provider, particularly from your disaster recovery provider, to make sure that they are paying attention to what you need them to pay attention to. So SLAs are documented. They identify exactly which applications are covered, exactly what the performance will be, and if there's any screw up on the DR provider's point, you get financial recourse and either contract extension or some sort of financial remuneration. But SLAs are extremely powerful tools. And like I showed you before, with the testing tools and with our dashboard, you'll always know where you are in regards to your SLAs. So here's an example that we have a RPO profile. We're targeting 24 hours with a 1-hour RTO, and the testing showed that the RPO is recovery. The 15 hours, very far short of the 24, and that the actual recovery time is 3 minutes. So you were able to meet your committed SLAs with your provider. And then the DRAS performance SLA. Unitrends is one of the few customers, or the few DRAS providers who actually commit to an SLA. You won't get this from hyperscale clouds such as Amazon or Azure. They do lots and lots of computing services. And quite frankly, most of the DRAS services in their clouds, you have to do it yourself. And they're obviously not going to give you an SLA for your performance. But with Unitrends Cloud and our premium DRAS services, we provide the DRAS capabilities and therefore recovery capabilities, and we provide an SLA to do that. That means that in essence, you have outsourced your recovery to us, and therefore we are the ones who are actually doing it. So now you can give that up. You don't have to worry about it. We're contracted, and we're the owners. Number 8, know the field of play. You should have secondary recovery site options. If you have remote data centers, it's really great if you have it. About 35% of respondents to our survey said that they were a single location business. They did not have a secondary location. and therefore, by their backup and recovery tools are literally susceptible to the same sorts of targets and downtime that impacts the production level environment. So if you have a remote data center, obviously you should be using it. You should be replicating your backup devices to protect each other and to recover each other's failed applications. But that's nice if you have it. If you don't, there is Colo and rental facilities, but that tends to be very expensive. But if you have only a single site, you should be looking at cloud DRaaS, the most cost-effective solution. And with Unitrends, we can support any sort of multi-site or single-site location, depending on what is your infrastructure. We can support multiple sites. We have customers that are literally in double-digit numbers of sites around the world, and they manage all this from a single UI in the headquarters, and they don't have to have local resources involved. But if you want to use the cloud, we have our Unitrends Cloud, which is specifically purpose-built for disaster recovery support and long-term data retention. We also support hyperscale clouds and service provider clouds, kind of purpose-built third-party that some of your partners may want to use. We support many of them as well. So talk to your rep, and we'll help you through that. Now, we built this tool for you. It's called the Unitrends Cloud Cost Calculator. It's available on our website free of charge. If you're considering using hyperscale clouds or the Unitrends Cloud, you can actually set the configurations for how long you want your assets protected, the amount of data, the number of recoveries you think you're going to do per year, and so forth, and get the true cost of what the cost comparisons between using hyperscale clouds and the Unitrends Cloud. And finally, number 8, choose the right assistant coach. And by that I mean service. Customer service is going to be absolutely critical to you during a downtime event. We have our customer service reps. They're located in Columbia, South Carolina. They're actually in the same facility as our entire R&D and engineering team, and they are available 24/7 by 365. They're by a phone, chat, email. And the great thing about our customer service is that we get a 98% customer satisfaction rate from customers who have used them. We ask literally after every engagement, we ask for a rating, and we have a 98% rating. So don't be afraid to ask other vendors what their customer satisfaction rating is. But literally, if when push comes to shove and you need some guidance as far as configurations or even to recover, then customer services becomes a critical part. So I've been talking for a while here, and I want to talk about third-party validation. But if you look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant of 2016, you see Unitrends there. And then in 2017, we moved up and to the right, which means that we got very, very close to the visionary box. Those vendors that are in the darker color, the red, actually lost ground as far as their positions within the Magic Quadrant. And there are only 4 visionaries in the leaders box. Island and IBM, they're 5. Island, IBM, and SunGard, they really focus on very large enterprises. They don't look at SMB and enterprise like we do. So we're very close to the leaders vision quadrant, and we are also the only company that's in both the Gartner DRaaS Magic Quadrant, but also the backup Magic Quadrant as well. So the same tools that we use for backup that are visionary are the ones that we use for DRaaS. So this is some third-level validation, third-party validation from Gartner as to how good we are at both backup and disaster recovery. So a couple of sites for you to visit. You can try our products. You can see demos from experts. You can talk to configuration experts from the cloud and what they can do. And we invite you to reach out to us and let us prove these points that I'm talking to you today. So with that, I'm going to go back to Kevin, and Kevin's going to moderate our Q&A session for today.
Thanks, Dick. Great presentation. Just a reminder, there's still time to ask a question. If you want to do so, just type it into the bottom right-hand corner of the player, and we'll get to your question as soon as we can. So let's just dive right in. First question is, we have data compliance requirements. Where are your data centers located, and can we choose where our data sits?
Yeah, excellent question. So yes, particularly, it sounds like we have a European on the call, because there's a lot of countries, particularly in Europe, require that the data not be moved outside of their boundaries. And even Canada has this as well. And so it does matter where, when you put data into the cloud, where that cloud locates. So we have 5 configurations in our cloud. We have the United States, Canada, UK, Germany, and Australia. So if you need more than that, we have the option of spinning up some cloud in other countries. But that's an excellent question. Yes, 5 different countries.
Okay, next question. Aren't public clouds like AWS and Azure a lot less expensive than using a vendor cloud like Unitrends?
Okay, so there's several parts to this question. The first is that there are some uniquenesses to the hyperscale cloud. They do have low-cost storage, which is something that they do offer. But that data is kept in what's called a storage cloud, and that data is in a cold state. So if you want to use it for disaster recovery, you've got to retrieve the data out of the cold storage, out of the storage cloud, and transfer it over to the recovery cloud. And there are what are called retrieval fees that are involved per gig, per event. They run from about $90 to $125 per gig, depending on the vendor. And so what happens is that with the hyperscale cloud, you get nickel and dime. There are a lot of hidden costs to actually manage a recovery. So that's one answer to the question. The second is that with the hyperscale clouds, you are doing this all yourself. You have to set up the plan. You have to know where the stuff is. You have to know, test it, and so forth. With a vendor cloud such as ours, you basically outsourced all that work to us, and literally your IT folks can go off and do other jobs. So in that regard, as far as labor and time and headcount, it's far less expensive to use a purpose-built cloud such as Unitrends Cloud.
Okay, the next question is, how does Unitrends verify that my backups are working so that I can recover when I need to?
By testing. So the recovery assurance can test at multiple levels. The first is the first line of recovery is obviously from the server to the backup appliance. So you take replications, and we do incrementals forever. So the first time you run a backup, obviously it's a full, but from then on it's an incremental, so that it doesn't tax the production systems, and then that incremental goes and refreshes the full on the backup appliance, so that we always have a full up-to-date file on the appliance. And so if it's a local event like a server crash, hard drive crash, or something like that, then the application can come up almost instantly on the backup appliance. So we have testing at that level, and then out of the back of the backup appliance, there's replication capabilities that go to the cloud, sends those increments back up to the cloud through, it's deduped, it's encrypted, so either at rest or in flight. It can be compressed. We have all sorts of algorithms that we can share with you on those up to the cloud, and then we test in the cloud. So our testing is at multiple levels, multiple locations to ensure, and we report to you exactly what the results are. Our premium DRAS service, for example, includes free monthly testing at a minimum. So that's an example.
Okay, one last question and then we'll wrap it up. The last question is, how does Unitrends license their software and appliances?
Okay, so it's all in. It's all in there. We don't replicate based upon, for the hardware appliance, you don't, if you buy a new server with a new operating system, then you don't have to buy a new license. It's all included. With our software appliance, we license by the number of cores, but you don't have to license based upon the particular technology. So it makes managing the licenses for our backup recovery products very simple. It's done on an annual basis, or you can buy a 3-year license or a 5-year license, and that you get everything. You don't have to worry about it from then on. Okay?
All right. Well, thanks, Dick. We're just about out of time here. As a reminder, this webinar was recorded, and you'll receive an email with a link to the on-demand version. We'll also announce the winner of the $100 Amazon gift card in that email as well. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to having you on future webinars. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.